All right, it is now 5:30 p.m. The July 15th, 2025 meeting of the Branson TIF Commission is called to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Michael Pinkley. James Dewsbury. Angie Teal.
Present.
Greg Baker. Here. Gary Groman. Here. Alex Williams. Here. Cody Fenton.
Here.
Nick Plummer.
Present.
Rob Griffith. Present. Dustin Price. Present. Sonia Meyer. Your Honor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I forgot to mention, I already screwed up. Your mics are not live like mine, so when you're speaking into the mic, and we'll have to share them, press your button so they can pick it up on the recording. Sorry, Chad. All right, the minutes from the January 29th, 2025 TIF Commission meeting have been prepared and are presented for approval this evening. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Would a commissioner like to make a motion to approve those minutes? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is to open the public hearing regarding the proposed amended Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan. I will now officially open the public hearing for the proposed amended Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan. To protect the rights of all parties involved and to ensure that everyone who wants to speak is able to speak, the TIF Commission follows a specific fact-finding procedure. Your attention to this procedure is appreciated. We have persons in attendance here in the council chambers, and we have an overflow room down the hall if necessary. Anyone who is in attendance may speak during the public comment portion if they so choose. Everyone desiring to speak regarding the proposed redevelopment plan will be given the opportunity to be heard. Your comments should be regarding the proposed TIF plan that is before the TIF Commission this evening. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you have any questions, please direct your questions to me. The order of business will be as follows: presentation by city staff and consultants, presentation by applicant, public comments, and then commission discussion and opportunity for the commission to ask questions of the applicants or city staff and consultants. Before we continue, I ask that anyone desiring to make a statement during the public hearing to please stand at this time and be sworn in. So if you plan on speaking during public comment, please stand. And Madam Clerk, please administer the oath.
Do you swear or affirm that all testimony that you give during the course of this public hearing will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. When you do give your testimony, please be sure to give your name and address for the record. First, we will start with a presentation from Kathy Stepp, City Administrator for the City of Branson.
Good evening, commissioners, members of our community who cared enough about the future of Branson to participate in this meeting with us tonight. We are so thankful to have so many interested community partners here joining us tonight to hear about this very special presentation and proposal that we are about to make on behalf of our community. So thank you. Commissioners, first and foremost, I want to thank you for giving time away from your businesses, your personal lives, the energy that you've had to invest in this project. I know that it's many layers, that there's complicated aspects to it. Your willingness to come in and be briefed so that you could really understand all the different mechanics and the different pieces so that you can make solid, sound decisions in the best interests of the entities that you've been appointed by tonight. So thank you for being willing to invest with us. I stand before you tonight excited. I'm excited for the vision that we're presenting to our community, and I'm very thankful to the developers that are here tonight that they deemed us worthy enough in Branson to invest their own money and take their own risks in partnership with us. I want to especially thank our teams of consultants at Baker Tilly and Lauber Municipal Law. They have guided us and helped navigate this, looked at this from all angles, upside down, inside out, and sideways, to make sure that we're putting forth the best Branson First proposal that we're able to. I'm also very humbled that God has placed me and Alex in Branson at this unique historic moment in time to be able to bring this in front of you tonight. Over the last 9 months, we've been working tirelessly to negotiate this Branson First project and opportunity. Unlike historical Branson TIFs, this is a responsible TIF. The city doesn't need to put our own credit on the line. We don't have to borrow any money for this TIF. The full risk is on the developer. Economic tools are available to municipalities, and they will encourage growth by helping to overcome many difficult hurdles that developers and municipalities find. Things like extreme infrastructure costs, site preparation with difficult, abundantless rock under our feet, which we have plenty of here in Branson, and helping to compensate for those more significant and additional investments than you might have in other areas. And it's no secret that we've had that challenge forever here in Branson. Over many years, our community at large has funded numerous feasibility studies, had lots of conferences and conversations about the many challenges that have been facing our community for decades. We've determined what we need, what we desire as a community, and this plan before you tonight addresses several of those needs that have been studied and talked about for so long. Housing, quality and financially realistic options for the housing of Branson's workforce. This plan includes 300 units of multifamily housing with a goal of 30% of those units to be priced between $750 and $1,100 a month, something that's real, affordable, and quality. These are apartments. These are not extended stay hotels. They are not nightly rentals. We want unique attractions that drive increased visitation to our community. And you're going to see a presentation tonight portraying a unique biblical attraction that will have national and worldwide vision and investment behind it. A 12-month economy. How long has Branson been talking about the need for stability in our economy? For over 20 years, we've tried to diversify. We've tried different things. Let's bring manufacturing to Branson. It hasn't worked, to no avail. Let's own who we are. We are a hospitality community, and let's take that hospitality to the next level. This plan embraces those strengths, our gifts, our reputation in the country for hospitality by setting the stage for a state-of-the-art indoor sports facility, embracing sports tourism. With an indoor facility located in the heart of America, right where we are, we will be the most attractive to thousands of sports families from coast to coast and everywhere in between. We know that when they visit Branson and they experience our hospitality, our numerous activities, our abundant outdoor beauty, they'll want to come back for more vacations. We will capture the hearts and the minds of the kids, and we hope that they bring their children back to our community for generations to come. By holding tournaments during our traditional off-season times, we stand poised now to smooth out our economy, establishing predictability, a stable financial future, not just for our city government, for those coffers, but most importantly for the people who live here, work here, and are raising their children here. All studies show that with financial stability in the home, families thrive. When parents don't have to worry about predictable upcoming layoffs for several months and worrying about how are they going to fill that financial gap in their budgets, it equates to more peace in the home when they know that they've got a stable job. And more peace means kids do better in school. There's less domestic violence incidents. The benefits are limitless. These new visitors will be spending money all over our community, and I think that that really should not be lost here. More sales tax means more money for our roads, more money for neighborhood improvements, continued investment in our city parks, increasing the quality of life for everybody who lives here, works here, or plays here. Once this plan is approved, our Board of Aldermen will work through the development agreement terms, while on parallel tracks, we're going to continue actions that are going to make this sports facility a reality. We will purchase the land. We'll be able to have earnest meetings with potential investors and partners, philanthropists, state and federal officials. No stone will be left unturned. We will cultivate a Bransonized facility for our community. Commissioners, tonight is your chance to put your fingerprints on a pivotal and transformational endeavor for our Branson. to help our city continue to grow. Adding that feather of sports tourism to our quiver will cement opportunities for us to be able to spread our love of faith, family, and flag with our new visitors who are sure to become lifelong fans. Real transformation opportunities like this rarely come along to a community. Help us color in the lines of Branson's vibrant future. It's going to take all hands together for this heavy endeavor. Join us. This is our moment. Thank you. We ask for your support.
Thank you, Kathy. Now we'll have a presentation from City Consultants Lindsay Kolish as the City's Special Economic Development Legal Counsel, and Tom Kaleko and Colby Kurzanowski from Baker Tilly as the city's independent financial consultants.
Good evening, TIF Commissioners. My name is Lindsay Kolish. I serve as Special Economic Development Counsel with Joe Lauber of Lauber Municipal Law for the City of Branson. We serve as Special Legal Counsel to the City of Branson and to you, the TIF Commission, as a commission of the city. As Chairman Fenton provided just a moment ago, I'll give you a brief summary of what we'll see tonight. You just heard from Ms. Stepp on the city's project. Next, I will give you a nuts and bolts summary of the TIF plan and the different findings and information throughout that we need to go over. Then you will also hear from Colby Kurzanowski with Baker Tilly, who performed the but-for analysis of this project. And then finally, you will also hear from the applicant, and they will give more information about their project and their ideals for this project. After those presentations, we will take public comments, and then we will also, after public comments, take questions from the TIF Commission. So I'm sure you might have some comments throughout the evening tonight, but my goal here is to answer all those questions throughout my presentation. So if you could just hold those questions, kind of jot them down or anything during the presentation. Hopefully I cover them, but if not, we will have an opportunity for that as well. One thing I just want to, before we get started, be on the same page with everybody. This is the Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan. That is the amended plan. An original plan was filed on June 20th. An amendment was filed on July 30th. So instead of saying that whole name, when I say TIF plan, I mean the amended plan that was submitted on July 3rd. And you should have received notice of the changes in that plan. Both taxing jurisdictions and the TIF Commission received that notice. So first, I know we have a few newer TIF commissioners, so I just want to start with a quick background of TIF. So TIF is designed to reimburse development costs through incremental increases of tax revenue. It is not a new tax. It does not establish a new tax. It redirects some taxes from a development back to that developer for their project costs. It captures certain taxes, not every tax, and we also can't change what taxes it captures. We just have to follow the TIF Act. If the TIF Act says it gets captured, it gets captured. However, there are non-captured taxes, and there are also base revenues. All of those revenues continue to flow to the taxing jurisdictions as they currently receive them. So we will talk about that a little bit more throughout the night, but it's not a new tax. Some taxes are captured, some taxes are not. Tonight also, we will only be talking about the TIF plan. As the TIF Commission, you review the TIF plan because the TIF Act requires you to do so. The development agreement, and there are a few other incentives that we will talk about tonight too, but those will all be reviewed by the Board of Aldermen in public Board of Aldermen meetings. The TIF Commission only reviews the TIF plan, and that's just how the TIF Act provides it. This TIF plan is also it would be implemented by a development agreement, and that is also something that you won't receive. So just to be clear, there will be, if this TIF plan is approved, there will be other steps that the Board of Aldermen would review. So first, we'll start with a summary of the plan. So this plan has 3 different portions of it. 2 of those are the developer projects. The applicant is Branson Meadows TIFCO, LLC. The redevelopment area, I'll skip forward real fast to the redevelopment area site. You can see here, I don't think I have a red light, but this map is actually flipped, so instead of it being north-south, it goes this way, so you can see Gretna Road coming through the development. So we are generally looking at the Gretna Road and Town and Country area, and that is 136 acres. That is the entire redevelopment area. So there's a redevelopment area, and then there are also redevelopment project areas. There are 3 redevelopment project areas in this redevelopment area. 2 of those redevelopment project areas are the developer's improvements. Project Area 1 includes 150 residential units, a sports entertainment facility, and that's not the same thing as the city sports complex, the historical tourist attraction, and a 200-room hotel. We anticipate that construction will commence in 2027 and complete in 2030. Redevelopment Project Area 2 is 150 residential units, 31 tourist cabins, 2 restaurants, a convenience store, a sporting goods store, and a strip retail development. And for that project area, we anticipate that it will commence in 2029 and complete in 2032. For both of the redeveloper project areas, the developer will be doing site work, and then we'll also build the residential units and the sporting goods store. Third parties will develop the other facilities in these 2 projects. The developer project costs are estimated at just over $300 million. The TIF portion of that project would be just under $74 million. And that is 24.6% of the developer's project cost. So just that amount is capped. That's how much the TIF would reimburse the developer. There is like I mentioned, there's also a development agreement, and that would establish the reimbursement cap of $82.4 million. So we get a question a lot, how much is actually going to be reimbursed to the developer? It would either be $82.4 million or 27.47% of their costs, whichever is lower. We do that to protect the city's interest, but also for all the other taxing jurisdictions that, the project may increase costs throughout the years. Things do continually increase costs, and we don't want them to receive more investment or more incentive than they need. But also, if their project costs come under, well, they don't need more than they asked for, right? So we can lower that then down to that 27.47% number. And really, that's not a requirement of the TIF Act, but it's something that we institute to protect the city and to protect the other taxing jurisdictions as well. This is a pay-as-you-go TIF, and what that means is that the city is not at risk. The developer has to build the project, has to incur costs, and that incremental increase in costs has to have an increase to be able to reimburse anything. Right now, this area is not generating very much income. It has to generate that revenue to be able to reimburse back to the developer. I do need to let you know that we do anticipate that TIF revenue bonds may be sought in the future. They are not being sought right now, but also, if TIF revenue bonds are sought, the city will not be backing those bonds. That is agreed to, and the city will not be backing the bonds. What happens instead is that the TIF revenue backs the bonds. And that's how, if TIF revenue bonds were sought, there would be separate approval process from the Board of Aldermen for that. And that's not being sought right now, but it is something that may occur in the future. I think I said this, but the commencement and completion dates, redevelopment project area 1, we estimate 2027 to 2030 for construction. Redevelopment project area 2, 2029 to 2032. The other part of this project is the city project. As you just heard from Ms. Stepp, the city project is a sports complex that will offer a lot of different facilities for different sports and intentionally for different competitive sports so that the city can become a year-round tourist attraction. For this project, the city project is included in that redevelopment area, so it is part of the 136 acres. The city estimates their project costs at just under $100 million. And like the developer projects, this TIF portion is also pay-as-you-go. This project would have to be built to generate projects. Now, the developer for the city project is the city or the city's designee. The TIF plan allows the city to transfer its interest in developing the city sports complex to another party. The city is evaluating those opportunities as they come in, and this TIF plan is just part of one of those opportunities. For the city sports complex, we estimate that the redevelopment project area would begin construction in late 2026 or early 2027 and would be complete by 2029. So this is the redevelopment area. You can see, I hope pretty well, but the green outline is redevelopment project area 1. The yellow outline is redevelopment project area 2. And then you can see the city sports complex is that pentagon kind of shape in the middle there with the two white squares and the green and the blue. There are a lot of different, like you can see Sight and Sound on here and a couple other different current city developments. Those are not included in the redevelopment area. Those are just to help orient everybody on the map. But just the outlines of the green and the yellow and then the city project area are where the redevelopment area would be. So as I mentioned, there are other incentives discussed in the TIF plan as part of this project. First, we have the tax increment financing, and that is the statutory capture of economic activity taxes and payments in lieu of taxes. And those occur, as I said, just by nature of the TIF Act. We can't say what isn't or isn't captured. That tax increment financing amount would be capped at $73.7 million. The Community Improvement District is another portion of this project, and a Community Improvement District is its own separate entity, its own separate political subdivision. It places a 1% sales tax on the areas of the CID. We anticipate that amount of the CID would be $4.2 million. And then very similarly, the Transportation Development District is very similar to a CID, except that it does transportation projects, not public improvements. And that is also a 1% sales tax, and because it's on the same areas of the CID, you can see that it also is just about $4.2 million. Now, both the CID and the TDD would only be placed on the on the developer project areas. So the city project area would not have these other two districts on it. But those two different, the CID and the TDD, act in connection with the TIF because those are both economic activity taxes. Those are both partially captured by the TIF. So they help pay off the TIF faster while also paying for some of those improvements or for the transportation projects. There is also a Chapter 100 being considered, and that is so that we can effectuate a sales tax exemption on construction materials. And that's just a legal way that exemption certificate, the city's exemption certificate is utilized for these projects. That number is estimated at $2.5 million, and that is an estimate because, of course, it's a sales tax exemption certificate. We can't know exactly how much that value will bring, but that is what we currently estimate it at. I mentioned the reimbursement cap. So that total reimbursement cap is the $82.4 million, and that's 27.4% of the developer's cost. That $82.4 million number comes from the TIF, the CID, and the TDD. The Chapter 100 is not included in that because, as I said, we can't really estimate where what that number is going to be, except that, well, I guess I should say that we can't know what it's going to be, but we can't estimate it. So that is not included in the reimbursement cap. The estimated construction schedule: redevelopment project area 1, 2027, estimated completion in 2030. Redevelopment project area 2 is anticipated to commence in 2029 and complete in 2032. And then the city project area, redevelopment project area 3 is late 2026 or early 27, and then complete by 2029. And of course, these are also estimates. Construction schedules depend a lot on market conditions, weather, availability of materials. So these are all estimates that we hope to hit, but those will remain to be seen. The sources and uses for the developer project area. This is a plan, right? This is a TIF plan. We can't know for sure what is going to generate from the project, and also it's a pay-as-you-go TIF, so we can't know what it's going to generate. It has to be built to generate revenue. So we estimate that in the developer project area 1, the applicant has identified $48.2 million of TIF reimbursement eligible project cost. However, keep in mind that reimbursement cap. They have estimated that a higher amount of costs will be eligible for a TIF reimbursement, but that reimbursement cap will kick in and will stop it will stop any further reimbursement over that reimbursable cap. Developer project area 2 similarly identifies just about $30 million worth of costs that could be TIF eligible. That reimbursement cap will still kick in and will hit just to stop from further reimbursement. The city project area has also identified up to $100 million worth of reimbursable costs, but again, that reimbursement depends on what the revenue is estimated to generate. We estimate that about $20 million worth of reimbursable project costs will be reimbursed by the city project area. One other piece of this is that the developer project areas will reimburse the developer project costs. The city project area will reimburse the city project costs. However, as you can see, we estimate that the developer projects will have further reimbursement that is needed for the developer. If that occurs before the TIF is over, before it has hit its 23-year clock, the developer project areas can then go to the city project area to reimburse the city project costs. So we don't know exactly what that number will be, but as you can see, the city has identified more reimbursable project costs than there are more reimbursable project costs that are eligible to be reimbursed. The proposed financing we've discussed is a pay-as-you-go TIF that the reimbursable project costs have to be paid back by revenue generated from the TIF. The project has to get built so that it can generate revenue to be built, or to reimburse the developer. The TIF is capped at $73.7 million. The SID and the TDD are both capped at $4.2 million. And the Chapter 1 sales tax exemption on construction materials is estimated at $2.5 million. The Colby will talk in just a moment about the projected revenues and then the analysis of the financials. But the estimated net benefit to taxing jurisdictions over the 23 years of the projects, and that's the net benefit, so what is actually going to the taxing jurisdictions, we estimate at just under $100 million from this project. And then I'm going to go back to the project area. Okay, so that is just the basics of what the TIF plan shows for the different projects. There are a few other things that we need to cover tonight. So first, I'm going to talk about the TIF Act has specific requirements of what's required to be in the TIF plan. One of those is a general description of the program to be undertaken to accomplish the objectives of the plan. And that is included in your TIF plan on sections 1 and 5, pages 1 through 3 and 12 through 13. And that is the entire project area, or the redevelopment area, that the different projects are going to be included in it, and that those will support, as Kathy mentioned, to the 12-month economy, developing the city as a tourist destination for competitive sporting events. And those all will come together as described in the TIF plan. The estimated redevelopment project costs, that is approximately $300 million for the developer and $100 million for the city project improvements. And that's included in the TIF plan at section 8, page 16, and those are also on Exhibit 4. The estimated sources of funds to pay the costs are found on section 7 of the TIF plan, pages 16 through 20. For the developer projects, those are private debt and equity, private loans, and obligations are all options to the developer to finance this project. Keep in mind, this is a pay-as-you-go TIF, so it has to, those may be supported by the TIF revenue, the SID revenue, and the TDD revenue. For the city project, city funds, private loans, and/or funds of the city's designee, obligations, public-private partnerships, and any other financing available to the city are the city's sources of funds for this project. We also have to provide evidence of commitments to finance for this project. Those are found on section 7E, page 18 of the TIF plan, and they're also provided at Exhibit 8A and Exhibit 8B. Exhibit 8A is the developer's evidence of commitment to finance, which is a letter from their bank indicating that they would support this project. And Exhibit 8B is the city's evidence of commitment to finance, and is a letter from the city administrator and the mayor affirming the city's commitment to finance these projects. The anticipated type and term of the sources of funds to pay the costs are shown in section 7 of the TIF plan, pages 16 through 20. It is anticipated that TIF revenues, SID revenues, and TDD revenues generated by the developer project areas will be sufficient to fully reimburse the developer for their costs in 23 years. If obligations are issued, debt service would be retired within the required 23 years of the TIF. It is also anticipated that TIF revenues from the city project area, and as I mentioned, eventually from the developer project areas, will reimburse some of the city's reimbursable costs. If obligations are issued, debt service would be retired within 23 years. We're also required to have in the TIF plan the anticipated type and term of obligations to be issued. And if obligations are issued, they would be issued on terms and at an interest rate dependent on the market at the time of the issuance. And again, if they are issued, they would be retired within 23 years. We also have to provide the most recent equalized assessed valuation of the property, that is the current assessed valuation, and that is just about $1.7 million, and that's found on section 8A, or I'm sorry, section 8 of the TIF plan, page 19 through 20. That's the current assessed valuation. The anticipated, estimated equalized assessed valuation after the redevelopment is $72.7 million. That's on section 8, also on page 20 of the TIF plan. The general land uses to apply in the TIF, or in the redevelopment area, are found on page 7, or I'm sorry, section 7, page 14 of the TIF plan, and those are retail, commercial, residential, and recreational uses. That is the legal sufficiency of the TIF plan. That's the information that the TIF plan has to include, the TIF plan has to include. The second part is that as the TIF Commission, you review the TIF plan to make recommendations to the Board of Aldermen. The TIF Act requires you to review and make recommendations as to 6 findings. The first finding is the blight test and the but-for test. So first, we have to find that the redevelopment area on the whole is a blighted area and has not been subject to growth and development through investment by private enterprise. That finding must include a detailed description of the factors that qualify it for blight, which is a blight study. And that blight study also has to be prepared by basically a professional, an attorney, a real estate appraiser, somebody like that. The applicant did provide a blight study, and that is located at Exhibit 6 of the TIF plan. That blight study was prepared by Polsinelli PC. So blight, for TIF purposes, a blighted area is an area that in its present condition and use either retards the provision of housing accommodations, constitutes an economic liability, constitutes a social liability, or constitutes a menace to the public health, safety, or welfare. A blighted area does any of those by having unsanitary or unsafe conditions, deterioration of site improvements, or existence of conditions which endanger life or property by fire or other causes. Missouri courts tell us 2 important things about blighted areas. One, the entire area does not have to be blighted. A preponderance of the area, if it qualifies as a blighted area, would qualify that area as blight. 2, economic underutilization does qualify as a blighted area. If an area could support a higher level of economic development, increased employment, and greater services to the public, that can also be considered as blight. So the blight study is Exhibit 6 to your TIF plan. I won't go over everything in there, but generally the blight finding was that the redevelopment area does constitute an economic and a social liability and a menace to the public health, safety, and welfare of the city due to a predominance of insanitary or unsafe conditions, deterioration of site improvements, and existence of conditions which endanger life or property by fire or other causes. Generally, those factors that were found in the blight study were trash and debris left by perhaps some squatters who may stay in the area at some point. Also, broken sidewalks, broken curbage, broken streets, cracked up, and then also overgrown vegetation, which can lead to fires and cause those problems. So based on the blight finding, the blight study, it is city staff and consultants, we conclude that you have sufficient information to find that there is a blight, that the redevelopment area is a blighted area. That's only part 1 of that test, of that finding. Part 2 is that the area would not be reasonably anticipated to be developed without the adoption of tax increment financing. And we evaluate this factor in 2 different ways. First, that finding can include an affidavit that is signed by the developer or the developers and submitted with the redevelopment plan, attesting that but for the use of tax increment financing, that the project would not move forward. Exhibit 11A and Exhibit 11B of the TIF plan include those affidavits. 11A is the developer's affidavit, and 11B is the city's affidavit, which both affirm that the area could not be reasonably expected to be developed without the adoption of TIF. For the other part of the but-for test, the city requires developers to go through a due diligence process that Baker Tilly takes on. So I will hand it over to Colby, and he can go over that information with you all.
Good evening. While we're getting the presentation up, I'll introduce myself. I'm Colby Krzyzanowski with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. We act as an independent financial consultant for the city of Branson. And our role in this project has been to do due diligence related to the financial elements of the project, most notably, as Lindsay stated, the but-for determination test and the report and findings that come with that. To follow some TIF Commission forms and procedures, we're officed at 5440 West 110th Street, Overland Park, Kansas. And finally, my colleague Tom Calico couldn't be with us today, but he sends his best, and I'm here to represent the city and our firm in reviewing this project. All right. Some purpose and disclosure. I think this part is very important. This study considers the likelihood that the project would occur without the requested incentive, considering the project as proposed and within the conditions of the current market. That is some of the more specific elements of the but-for test. Secondly, BTMA was hired by the city. We do not carry any financial interest in the project. We are here to represent the city in an objective financial advisory capacity. And the but-for test is not a feasibility study, meaning that it does not do an extensive review of the economics and market of the applicant's proposed project. It is specifically oriented at evaluating the project as it is presented and determining whether or not it would continue but for the requested incentive. And finally, this is an important point, and I think a lot of people come to assume this, but over the course of the next 20 plus years, the actual development and results and taxes generated by the project would likely differ from what's here. We use the best information available to us, the best detail, the best sources to provide the best projections that we can. But they are projections. However, we do believe they are based on the best information available to us. The next slide, a little more preamble and some context for everyone to better understand what we're looking at here. The original but-for test was finalized in late March and early May, which means that a lot of time has proceeded and a lot of development has happened on this TIF plan. In addition to that, when we write the but-for reports, we do our best to keep up with what has happened since the creation of the original report. As the project changes, we do the math in the background to see if anything has meaningfully changed in the report to date. And while I'm happy to say that there was no material changes to the outcomes, determinations, or overall projections of the report in a way that would change how we present it and what our conclusions are, there are some changes I'd like to acknowledge for transparency for this committee. The first is that at the request of the city, the applicant obtained independent appraisals for each of the subject parcels. In the original report, we note that there were not independent appraisals taken for the land in this project, and we are just simply stating here that the applicant has satisfied that request by the city to get the independent appraisals, and that the result of that collection of appraisals was that they substantiated the cost of land present in the project as proposed, which is the finding we were trying to find. We were trying to evaluate whether or not that land cost was substantiated. The applicant satisfied that question. The second is that a subset of that exercise, which was appraisal for the land for the sports facility, the city's sports facility. An independent appraisal was also sought for that facility, and the price established in that appraisal is what was quoted to the city. The final point here is really discussing the price per square foot valuation. Long and short of it is that the appraisal for the land came in higher than the costs given to us by the applicant, which in turn would substantiate that the costs they gave us are not more than the value of the land. The value of the land is actually higher than the cost given. The second is a revision to the project timeline. In the original iteration of the but-for test and the but-for report, the hotel was in a different project phase. It has since moved up to an earlier project phase. We did run the internal rate of return model used to evaluate these projects with that change in the project timeline, and it did not result in a meaningful change in the ultimate internal rate of return, which was good to know, but we're glad we checked. As for the project overview, I won't linger here for too long because Lindsay had a much more comprehensive version of this evaluation for her in her presentation. You can see what is included in the development plan and the total acreage of the development. As for the assistance request, but for determination report at the time it was written was based on the calculations in the assistance request provided by the applicant and their counsel. That included a TIF reimbursement from pilots and EATs generated by future development. Again, incremental development on top of what already exists at the site, and only that increment would be captured. The second, as Lindsay outlined, was a 1% CID or community improvement district layered on top of the development. Third is a TDD. In summary of those incentives, we go back to the figure of 82 million quoted in Lindsay's presentation. And finally, there is a sales tax exemption on construction materials. Lindsay noted in her presentation why this was called out. To elaborate on that, the first three incentives here are reimbursement incentives. The applicant has to incur the costs, certify them, and be reimbursed. We project and create the values established in the term sheet based on that because the reimbursements are something that can be certified and tracked. An exemption on construction materials is a cash flow savings. It is not a reimbursement. That estimate is really just for informational purposes and helps us understand what the total benefit is. And we did consider that in the but-for, however. It is a cash flow savings, not a reimbursement. That's why it's called out separately. For the project overview, we have a little bit of a different look on the information previously presented. So to get a little more detail, for the TIF pilots, we're looking at a 100% redirection of pilots and a 50% redirection of EATs, which would colloquially be known as sales taxes. The TDD sales tax is 1% within the TD district for up to 27 years. The same goes for the CID. The only difference is the way in which those districts are established and the purpose that they can reimburse costs for. The STECM, I think Lindsay did a much better job, so I won't try to replicate what she said, is a Chapter 100 benefit that allows for sales tax exemption on purchased construction materials, most of which would be purchased outside of the city of Branson. For an incentive summary and boundaries, again, we're looking to the report we published. These are the figures from that report, which outlines very briefly a table of the proposed benefits and maximum benefits of those incentive programs, totaling that 82.4 million. Next is a development site, which we spent quite a bit of time going over, but for reference, we have another shot of that here. And finally, I do enjoy this part. We do conduct these. I enjoy methodological studies of facts of projects, so I'll take a little bit of time to describe what we evaluated in a but-for. We evaluate the applicant's estimated project costs. That takes on the character of a lot of different project cost categories, whether it be soft costs, hard costs of vertical construction, site work and site development costs, purchase of land costs, and really everything associated with what it takes to take a raw site and construct it into the project as proposed by the applicant here. The second is we evaluate the estimated project revenues. In many cases, applicants who are trying to propose a project like this will have a net lease structure. There's a lot of public data that allows us to benchmark the revenues proposed by the applicant for both the sale of pads and net leases. Thirdly, there's the hypothetical sale. This is oftentimes a slightly more difficult concept to grasp, but in order to standardize the returns proposed by the applicant here, we put them in terms of what investors across the country are looking at, meaning that there's a 10-year period of performance for the project, and anything beyond that period is present valued to the final year. That's a lot to say. We take their project over the full term, and we put it into the format that we can compare it to investments across the country. 4, we determine the internal rate of return without the incentive, meaning if the project were to be built and not given any incentive benefit, what would the return be? And then we then compare that to what investors are expecting for return. Thank you. I'm glad someone noticed. Then we compare that to the internal rate of return investors in the market expect. So the first category, expenses. This is a very large, very complex project. There are a lot of parts to it. And we wanted to comb through every one of the individual known components of the project and do our best to recreate what we think is a reasonable range for the applicant's costs to be in. So of the $300 million in applicant costs, $124 million are going to be directly within the purview of the applicant, and then the remainder, which is common for a combined site development project, they're going to sell some of this land. They're going to get tenants to come in and take it over for them, and those other costs are going to come from third parties. There is a diversity of businesses in this development. So for the basis of evaluation of these costs, we look at the market data from a global real estate service called CoStar. We look at the acquisition price and found that it was approximately 2.89. The comparable asking prices for similar land show a median price of 2.53. So we go back to the acquisition price that we discussed earlier. We used CoStar to compare the land sales to the sites under consideration here, and there are a lot of different comparables that can range somewhat widely. This point would be revised because we got appraisals for the land, and the appraiser is going to offer a higher level of fidelity than what we can find for comparable land sales, and that component is important. That means that we took an estimate that we used a national data set to evaluate, and we actually got a higher degree of fidelity and accuracy because the applicant went and got independent appraisals, which speaks to the validity of the assumptions in the study. Next is the building cost. The applicant estimated $140.58 per square foot. We use a service called RS Means, which lets us estimate a multitude of different construction types, and we recreated the specs that were given to us by the applicant and found a range of 165 to 171. Notably, the range we calculated is higher, meaning that the applicant came in under the range that we estimated for the construction costs, which if they're able to do that good for them. It was within reason for us, and that was a good sign for us. Next is the site work was extrapolated from the sports and entertainment facility construction estimates. And this is another instance where the applicant came forward with one of their proposed tenants on the site, or one of their proposed other businesses that was going to go on the site. That company actually has a team that does extensive geotechnical work for their site development for their projects, and we don't often get the level of preliminary site development figures that we have there. That offered a very high standard for which we could use to look at the site work across the entire development area. As for soft cost, approximately 3% of the total cost, which is less than the industry standard for budgeting, were soft costs. That rang as a reasonable assumption for us. The revenue assumptions. Our conclusion was that the revenue assumptions appeared reasonable. The revenue components were apartment leases, net lease of commercial retail sporting goods store, and the sale of commercial pad sites. Our basis was for evaluation was looking for comparable multifamily units in Branson. And based on the current data available, the applicant's assumptions were considered reasonable, although they may be considered aggressive. And we will say that apartment pricing, oftentimes when we have large multifamily development projects, we're looking years ahead. There's a range of reasonableness we're looking for, and if it's on the high side of that range, we still would consider that a reasonable assumption. Commercial rents near the project area is another basis we look at. This is another place we can go to CoStar to look for what the commercial renting rate is. And then we look at comparable land sales and asking prices within Branson. This is another good use of those national real estate data sets. So, sometimes I start with the conclusion. This time I did not. But to conclude, the internal rate of return was insufficient without the incentive. The market rate of returns and expectations from PwC, we used the fourth quarter of '24 for this report. We evaluated all of the different project area components given a blended rate of return, and we benchmarked each component against its respective PwC category. The benchmark rate of return calculated using a weighted average method as described. The project, in conclusion, was unlikely to proceed but for the requested incentives. And to point to the graph that you see on the side of this page, this blended rate of return showed a range between 6.92% internal rate of return and 11.98% internal rate of return. With incentive, the project was at approximately 7.6. And that 7.6 number is what I called to in the first project changes area of the presentation. That is the number that adjusted slightly when adapting the timeline for the project development from our initial report to the updated project. It was originally 7.11. There was not a meaningful return without incentives. So we did a lot of reviewing, a lot of assuming. We did a lot of research to establish what these benchmarks are. One other thing we try to do to provide value for these analyses is to say, what are the most sensitive variables and what could impact the project the most? We try to sensitize that to show potential changes in the project over time. So for our sensitivity analysis, we estimated that even with a 20% reduction in site work and building costs, which is going to be a high sensitivity variable for this project, the project would not generate a market rate of return even with that considerable cost savings. In summary, the applicant's costs and revenue assumptions appear reasonable based on the third-party sources we evaluated. The forecasted internal rate of return without the incentives was not sufficient given the level of risk associated with the project. The most significant challenge for the project appears to be the high costs related to site work, which we understand to be fairly common in the city of Branson given the geology. And it is unlikely that the project would occur in the current marketplace without the requested incentive. Here's some great pictures of me and my team here, and some of our information. And our presentation is fairly short. I threw a lot at everyone, but our presentation is fairly short, so I'll conclude here and turn it back over to Lindsay.
And then if you just want to pull up the redevelopment area, that would be good, yeah, perfect. Okay, so that is just finding number one. Luckily, the rest of them are a little bit shorter than that. So that, based on the information included in the TIF plan and based on the but-for report prepared by Baker Tilly, we believe that you have sufficient information to be able to find that the redevelopment area has not been subject to growth and redevelopment, and that it would not be reasonably anticipated to be redeveloped without the use of tax increment financing. Finding number two is whether the redevelopment plan conforms to the comprehensive plan for the development of the municipality as a whole. Now, I know the city is going through the process of updating its comprehensive plan right now, but the approved on the books comprehensive plan is Branson Community Plan 2030. And that plan, there is more information included in your staff report, but that plan highlights the need for infill development, the 12-month economy development, and then also the use of city sports and recreational facilities to help further create that 12-month economy of a tourist destination for competitive sports. And that is a big value of the Branson Community Plan. The other part of the Branson Community Plan is that it establishes that it anticipates, it hopes that this land in this area and its future land map will be community commercial, and all of the uses shown in the TIF plan do match the city's current zoning requirements for community commercial. And based on that information, we also believe you have enough information to find that it does conform, the TIF plan does conform with the community plan as a whole. Finding number three is that we have to find that the estimated dates of completion of the redevelopment projects, and then also the retirement of any obligations issued for the redevelopment projects, that those are both anticipated to occur within the 23 years, within that 23-year clock of the TIF Act. For that one, the applicant proposes to undertake Project Area 1 in 2027 and complete it by 2030, Project Area 2 in 2029 and be completed by 2032, and the city's project area would be commenced in 2026 or 2027 and then complete in 2029. We anticipate that all of the redevelopment areas will be activated by 2032, and that is within that 23-year clock. The other portion of this project is that, or of this requirement, this finding, is that the redevelopment projects will not be approved past 10 years of the TIF plan. So we have the TIF plan. If it gets approved, we have 10 years to activate the areas, and then those areas have to be complete in those 23 years. And both of those are found in the TIF plan. And that is also found at Section 7, page 16 of the TIF Act. And also the TIF plan also provides that no ordinance approving any of the projects will be adopted after that 10-year clock. Thus, we believe also that you can find, I'm sorry, I just have one last point on that. We also are not allowed to use eminent domain within 5 years after the TIF, outside of the first 5 years of the TIF plan, and we actually don't anticipate any use of eminent domain. The developer is in the process of acquiring the property in all of in the developer redevelopment project areas, and the city is currently under contract for the city project area property. So with all of that information, we do believe you have sufficient information to find that the estimated dates of the ordinance approving the redevelopment projects will not occur more than 23 years after the completion of any redevelopment project and after the retirement of any obligations incurred to finance those projects. Finding number 4 is that a plan has been developed for relocation assistance for businesses and residences in the area. That has been prepared. That's Exhibit 9 of the TIF plan. However, we don't anticipate that it would have to be used at all. Finding number 5 is that there needs to be a cost-benefit analysis showing the economic impact of the plan on each taxing district that is at least partially affected by the TIF plan. The analysis shall show the impact on the economy if the project is built or if it is not built pursuant to the TIF plan. And it shall also include a fiscal impact study on every affected political subdivision and sufficient information for the commission to determine whether those projects are feasible. The cost-benefit analysis is one of the larger TIF exhibits of the TIF plan. That's Exhibit 10, and it shows the net present value of the revenue to the taxing jurisdictions if the project is not built, and the net present value if it is built, if the project is built. I think I mentioned this earlier, but the net benefits to the taxing jurisdiction if the projects are built is just under $100 million, and that's the net benefit to all of the taxing jurisdictions. That exhibit also includes the financial impact study on each affected political subdivision and also shows sufficient information for you to evaluate whether those projects are feasible. In particular, I would highlight that those exhibits also show the personal property taxes that would be generated to the taxing jurisdictions. And with that information, it is also our opinion that you have sufficient information to be able to find that finding has been met, that the cost-benefit analysis is included and includes all of the required information. Finding number 6 is usually the easiest one. We are not allowed to have the initial development or the redevelopment of any gambling establishment, and a review of the TIF plan shows that there is no gambling establishment anticipated to be developed here. So those are the 6 findings that the commission must recommend. Those are included in the resolution, which we will review at the very end of this meeting. Just to sum up my presentation, the TIF plan is a plan, right? It's estimates. This is what we think will happen. There is a reimbursement cap that would be implemented through a development agreement, and all of any other incentives would be reviewed by the Board of Aldermen if we get to that stage. So I will turn it over to the applicant for their presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kurt Peterson. It's a pleasure to see you all tonight. I'm here on behalf of the proposed developer, which, as you heard from Lindsay, is Branson Meadows TIFCO LLC. Here with me is the principal, Rob Phillips, here in the second row, and then Grant Wilkins, who's our project manager. Quick personal aside, I debated whether I got to do this. I said, yeah, I get a quick personal aside just for a second, if commissioners will allow. I will say it is a huge, huge privilege to be working on a project of this magnitude in the city of Branson. My wife and 5 kids are absolutely, we just cherish our visits here to Branson, and it's just really special to be working on something that, if approved, will further enhance this already amazing place. So thank you for that privilege. In terms of Rob and Grant, we've been working on this project for over a year. From the very beginning, Rob, as our quarterback, has been preaching win-win. When we're sitting here coming up with what is this project going to look like? What can it be? It's win-win. That is for the developer and the community, not just publicly, but privately. Focusing on a lot of different Branson priorities as we've worked with Kathy and others in designing this project. Some that came to mind that we heard a lot were faith, family, flag. And we heard a lot focusing on the 12-month economy, businesses that are operating 12 months a year. So those from the very beginning were part of the foundation of what this project has become that's before you tonight. And when there came an opportunity, and it didn't happen right at the beginning, but when there came an opportunity to work with the city to help assist in the ways we can with this city sport complex, Rob and Grant, I think the same day we're all in, whatever we can do to incorporate that into this overall project. So in short, that we are absolutely thrilled, I speak for all of us, thrilled to have the chance to be in front of you tonight. And again, Commissioners, we know this is not a high-paying job, so thank you for spending the evening with us. Before bringing to life some of the developer's project components, more than our previous speakers have, really adding to it, I wanted to start with a little bit more on the who. The who's a big deal. The who is proposing this, who's going to be a long-term partner in the city of Branson. So who is this developer that's proposing to partner with the community on this substantial project? There's more on the screen. I'm certainly not going to read this to you, but I wanted you to know that there's richness behind what I'm saying. There's more detail that I'm going to put words to verbally. So you've met Rob and Grant, again in the second row, but now I want to emphasize some of the, at a high level, extensive experience they have with projects of this type. And I want to start, again, you can see on the screen and read some details, but by highlighting, notably, their expertise cuts across a number of different types of development. So retail, sports, mixed use, including residential components, and office. I mean, pretty much, we didn't say industrial. We don't really have any industrial here, but they have that experience too. Really, really deep, multi-decade experience in all types of development. And you'll see the projects are not all in one place. They're spread across Oklahoma and Missouri, and also notably here in Branson at Branson Mill, which I know everybody is aware of. So Rob and Grant have been here in Branson regularly and have proven to be a committed local business partner. So without question, I hope you, with me, can have great confidence in the development team that is making the proposal to you tonight about this project. So now to the what. So as you've seen, Lindsay and Colby did an excellent job of talking about, I usually have, with a project area, you talk about what it looks like. This one has so many lines, I don't even know what to compare that to. But so that shape on the screen, the yellow boundaries, is the overall 136 acres that makes up this overall master development. The site plan, again, I won't spend a lot of time on because Colby and Lindsay both did a really good job of walking through it, but I do want to emphasize as I build this more detail on some items, a few things. One, there are 3 distinct pieces. 2 of them are led by the developer. We call it phase 1 and phase 2 of the developer project. And the third is the city's project with its sports facility. And in short, very quickly, sometimes repetition is good for the important parts, developers phase 1, the first part, will consist of, first and foremost, land acquisition and extensive site work and infrastructure. And I mean extensive, which is a word for a lot of time, a lot of money. There's 4 project components in that phase 1. First, there's the Bible Encounter, which in a minute we're going to talk more about and I'm excited to. Second, there's the Mammoth Sports Entertainment Facility. Third is a hotel. And lastly is the workforce housing that Kathy talked about at the very beginning. The second phase is prominently made up of a sporting goods retailer, restaurants, inline retailers, convenience store, more workforce housing, and some rental cabins. So given that phase 2 is down the line, as you heard from the timeline, and that makes sense, it's phase 2, we get phase 1 done, and then we move on as the market allows and demands, and we get into phase 2. I thought I'd focus tonight with some, I'll call it sizzle. I think you're going to be excited about what does phase 1 really look like. That's what's around the corner. So phase 1, let's talk about the first of the components I went through, which is the Bible Encounter. So Dr. Bobby Sparks and Billy Ong, who are here, I spent some time before the meeting, right back here in the 3rd row. They're spearheading this part of the project, the Bible Encounter. And as you may know, Dr. Sparks is the president of the Tabernacle Ministries, which I think I'm right, over 40 years now involved. I'm getting a nod. So a long time, very well respected if you've followed Dr. Sparks. He teaches at seminaries, churches, conferences, on the Old Testament tabernacle specifically, very, very well known for that, as well as many other biblical topics of faith. Billy Ong, which I imagine all of you probably know, he had a long career with the Hershen Family Entertainment and is a very important part of that overall project team. So this exciting vision that I'm referring to as Bible Encounter looks like this. It's on 15 acres of ground, so good piece of land. It's a unique interactive experience that will transport visitors to ancient Israel. 3,500 years ago, something in that range. And where you will see, touch, feel, smell, what did I leave out? Anybody paying attention? Whatever, all 5 senses of what ancient Israel would be like. And it will include, because it's Dr. Sparks, you would expect a full-size replica of the tabernacle. But not only that, and this is not a complete list, I was honestly picking off of all the ideas that are in production right now. I picked off some of my favorites, so this is not exhaustive, but these are examples. An Egyptian experience, a focus on Abraham and Sarah, Mount Sinai, Jericho, and even Calvary. So the experience, to give you a sense of it, this immersive experience will take most guests, we expect, unless you have crying kids, which I usually do, 2.5 to 3 hours. So it's very rich in content. The target opening is spring of 2027. And now, because a picture is truly worth 1,000 words, if we can run the video, I think I'll get help. Thank you, sir. So just a little taste, just a little sneak peek. And I'm going to violate a rule. Again, I feel like I keep asking for exceptions. Personal moment now, violating a rule, which is you don't read things to a body that's up at a dais. Only time tonight, if you don't mind. I thought this was this impactful. I just recently received this. It's a letter. This is still on Bible Encounter. From Dr. Matthew Neff, the CEO of Sight and Sound. And I just have to tell you, I'm being totally serious. I have an absolute love affair with Sight and Sound. My wife is from Lancaster. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri area. But I've known Sight and Sound for a really long time. Just saw David a few weeks ago. Really moving. So here's what Sight and Sound's CEO just presented us when it comes to the Bible Encounter Project and the proposed TIF. To whom it may concern, Branson TIF Commission. I am writing to express our support for the tax increment financing proposal for the Branson Meadows redevelopment project. We believe this inspired vision will be a significant benefit to Taney County and the Branson community in the near and long term. As neighbors to this project, we are excited to see the creation of new and diverse experiences that will serve to both attract and retain guests of all ages, as well as benefit the quality of life for the Branson and broader Taney County community. The location is primed for this, given its beautiful setting, ease of access and quality infrastructure, and the level of excellence evident in this investment will continue to expand the destination's draw to the region, while also providing job creation and housing opportunities. We also appreciate that the variety of new attractions, and particularly the year-round sports complex, speaking of the master development, will help expand the season that people travel to Branson and increase the opportunity for broader employment beyond the peak tourism season. Sight and Sound endorses and appreciates the commitment to our region that this redevelopment project represents. We humbly ask the Commission to support the Branson Meadows TIF and the historic progress this will create to serve our community and the many friends who visit us for years to come. Sincerely, D. Matthew Neff, Chief Executive Officer of Sight and Sound. That's the first of the 4 components of Project 1, Phase 1 of the developer project. The second is referred to as Mammoth Sports, the Mammoth Sports Entertainment Facility. Mammoth Sports is an affiliate of Mammoth Construction. You may have seen their trucks sometimes around the state. A very successful sports facility construction company with offices in Kansas, Arizona, Missouri, Florida, and South Dakota. This will be a multi-sport entertainment venue with food and beverage. When I say multi-sport, I'm talking pickleball, baseball, softball, basketball, putting greens, and driving range. It'll have both indoor and outdoor components, which allow it to operate year-round. Mammoth piloted portions of this project in Wichita, Kansas, and also in Marion, Illinois, but this will be the first time as they pull it together that the full-scale version will happen in the United States, right here in the city of Branson. So, again, let's look at a video to give you just a little bit of a sense for what you can expect at this venue.
This is recreation reborn. Golf, baseball, pickleball, and more. This is Fieldhouse.
That's crazy. I could do this on a daily. Ooh, that's crazy. I could do this on a daily.
A multi-sport mixtape made to bring out the competitor in everyone, where food and drink provide the perfect time out. And the only competitive social experience in the country delivering multiple sports in one location. All play, all day. And for hundreds of thousands of visitors to every Fieldhouse every year, this is a place built just for players. Where competition creates camaraderie, where highlights become memories, and where good games, good vibes, and good times win the day. Come out swinging. Mammoth Fieldhouse. Who's got next?
Okay, a little taste of Mammoth Sports. The third Phase 1 component I want to highlight is the hotel component. For those that know the hotel industry, know hospitality, they do know the name O'Reilly Hospitality Management. It's highly, highly respected and accomplished for excellent hotels. This hotel would be designed to serve the overall project, but also, of course, other demand in Branson for this type of hotel. I will say these on the screen are not trying to say the exact style that will be built. They're still doing their market study. That will happen, but what we do know is it will be excellent because it's O'Reilly. And with that, and it is the last video clip, I promise, I wanted to give you a sense to show it matters. This is not just your run-of-the-mill partner we have coming in to do the hotel. It's O'Reilly. This is what they do.
At O'Reilly Hospitality Management, we build success stories that stand the test of time. For nearly 20 years, developers and investors have trusted OHM to turn bold ideas into thriving destinations where guests feel at home and communities grow. Our expertise covers every detail, from site selection and design to construction, operations, and long-term growth. Behind every project is a dedicated team that cares deeply about our guests, our partners, and the neighborhoods we serve. We lead with sustainability, reducing our footprint and partnering with communities to make a real difference. From trusted hotel brands to one-of-a-kind restaurants and entertainment venues, we bring innovation and a personal touch to every project. When you partner with OHM, you gain more than a management company. You gain a team that protects your investment and helps it thrive. Because for us, every project is personal. Every handshake is a promise, and every opening day is just the beginning. Let's build what's next, together.
So that's our hotel component in phase one. The fourth and final component in phase one, it's odd. Some of you may be having sort of dissonance in your mind saying, are you really building to this one? You don't do that. The cleanup hitter's fourth. You know, the big boy, you do this one last. It's the drop the mic. It's workforce housing. And again, some of you may be like, really? You're doing that fourth? If there's one thing that I've heard Kathy say and leadership here in the city, we need more housing. Heard it again and again and again. And it's not, by the way, it's not a Branson only problem, right? We're experiencing this across the Midwest. But we hear it again and again and again. And it's not just we need any housing, because we hear stories. We need quality housing, and quality housing people can afford. Teachers, first responders, what have you. Developer will construct in phase one approximately 150 quality workforce housing units to help meet this demand. And although there are other components that, again, as I'm saying, are probably more exciting, I will tell you that this developer is, I'll give you an image, that this developer right here in the second row is just as passionate about this element of this first phase of the project. Maybe some days I'd say more than any other, honestly, and how they're going to deliver this. So this really will have an impact on many lives. It'll be quality housing that people can afford. Commissioners, I just wanted to end. I'll be light on this because our speakers before addressed the economics, but I do have a different sort of angle, a different view, facet of the diamond to look at quickly. So I'll go to this is the phase one, sources and uses. You can see on the screen the four components we just talked about and the overall budget. And again, these are the same numbers you've already seen tonight from both speakers before us. The TIF revenues would be focused on three key areas, and this is what I want to really get a sense, because some might say, I get it, and there's reports that show this is needed and it's not too much, but boil it down and you have a developer that has a vision and wants to deliver it, but but why the TIF? And here's the way to think of it from the developer's perspective. There are three components. The TIF will assist with acquisition of land. You can see there was a lot of it. Site work and infrastructure, and then specifically and only helping with some of the vertical construction of the workforce housing. The land and the site work infrastructure, so those first two of three items, they set the table for everything else. Without the assistant, the projects don't pencil. You don't even get off the ground. This is, of course, verified when Colby gave his but-for analysis, which, obviously is very extensive. But once the table is set, to achieve that high-quality housing I was referring to that's affordable, the workforce housing, we still need to have the TIF to be able to meet those target rents. And you can see on the screen in front of you, in yellow at the bottom right, that there's, even with this TIF, which is significant, there's over $130 million of estimated private investment that will never be reimbursed by any public incentives. And importantly, as Lindsay, I thought, really brought to the surface, this TIF, even if recommended by this commission and approved by the Branson City Council and implemented, doesn't do anything unless that developer does what he says he's gonna do. That's what generates all the TIF. So there's no free handouts. You gotta deliver, and then this is what helps make it happen. And the city and the other taxing jurisdictions represented, the dais here tonight, are not being asked to guarantee anything. Not asked to guarantee a single thing. And in the long run, as the reports that were identified earlier tonight show, there are significant benefits, actually both in the short term, as identified, but also in the long term for all the taxing jurisdictions. So, and this is the same story, but just phase two. So with that, I would just ask that, Mr. Chairman, other members of the commission tonight, if you have any questions at the appropriate time, I'd be happy to answer questions so we can get down. You leave here with, nothing left unanswered in your mind, and we do ask respectfully for your support tonight in passing this on with a recommendation to the City Council. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you all for your presentations. We're going to take a 10-minute recess for bathroom breaks. We will reconvene at 7:07. Thank you.
Why is my mic not?
That's my Larry Milton working. I was sitting down at 7:07. You were not. You were not. I forget my mic's on.
Gavel. Hey.
Yeah.
Only have 5 minutes, or you starting?
I mean, we're going to start. But
Okay, no. I was going to, I had to answer.
He needs to look at me.
Should I just start talking? Should I just start talking? All right, we're going to try to resume the meeting again.
Bang the gavel. There you go. There you go.
Get some order in here. All right, next we're going to have the public testimony portion of the TIF meeting. Members of the public who wish to offer testimony regarding the proposed TIF plan may now step forward to the freestanding mic and give their comments. If you wish to give testimony and were not sworn in the beginning of this meeting, please stand now and take the oath before we begin. So is there anybody that wants to speak that didn't get sworn in earlier? Anybody else? Okay.
Do you swear or affirm that all testimony that you give during the course of this public hearing will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Before we begin, let me go over the rules for the public comments. We are recording this public hearing, so please state your name for the recording prior to beginning your comments. All comments should be addressed to the commission and not to the staff or the applicant. Should be relevant to the application and should not be of a personal nature. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes each. When providing your comments, please be brief, be clear and concise, and avoid repeating statements already made. If you wish to state your agreement with the previous comment that has been made by someone else, you need only state your name and note your agreement for the record. If you are here with a group, you are welcome to give your own comments or to have a group representative give comment on behalf of the group. If you have questions regarding the TIF plan, please direct your questions to me. Unruly behavior such as booing or hissing or harassing remarks is prohibited. Please do not clap or boo while anyone is presenting. Does everyone understand the rules? Is there anyone who would like to offer testimony regarding the proposed TIF plan? If so, come down to the mic. And again, state your name for the recording, please.
I'm Paul Johnson. I live on Galewood. If you show the map earlier, my comment is on the multifamily workforce housing unit. It's labeled number 12 on the map in the hallway. And I don't think that it's a good reason for these reasons. Number one, the neighborhood houses are valued in the $600,000 to $1 million. They're not compatible with low-income housing. Number two, the neighborhood single-dwelling houses are not compatible with multi-unit housing. Number three, installing multi-unit housing will stop people from building new $900,000 houses. New houses are built each year on our neighborhood, so there is no blight. Number four, people will sell and move rather than stay next to multiple unit housing and watch the value of their house go down. Number five, there are lots of places to install lower-end housing in Branson. Why mess up the nice neighborhoods? Developing housing unit number 12 will cause huge issues for the neighborhood, including safety concerns. Number six, please move housing unit number 12 to somewhere away from the neighborhood, and many issues will be eliminated. That would be a win-win. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Abigail Johnson, 103 Galewood Drive. I have lived in the Summerwood neighborhood for 8 years now, and it has been incredible to have an oasis of peace and quiet right in the middle of Branson. Our neighborhood is full of amazing people, many of whom we're on a first-name basis with and count as friends. This proposed development of 150 low-income housing units, this is the same parcel that was just talked about previously, this would change all of that. The population of our little neighborhood could potentially more than triple in size. Leading up to this, our neighborhood has been a very safe place for kids to play outside without constant adult supervision, and a neighborhood that is very walkable without worrying about safety. I'm worried about how this low-income housing development might change that. Additionally, the increase of residents would put a strain on our road system and infrastructure around the area. Instead of being peaceful and quiet, our neighborhood will be filled with noise pollution from all these people. As it is, the vacation home development on Cottonwood Circle has already significantly impacted the noise level on our street, since sound carries very clearly across the little valley between Cottonwood Circle and Summerwood. I also have concerns about how our home value will change with this proposed low-income housing development. Concerns about the long-term maintenance standards for these units. Concerns about 150 housing units being put in a neighborhood of single-family dwellings. 150 unit complexes are fundamentally incompatible with the intent and design of low-density, single-family residential neighborhoods. These kind of units belong in areas better suited for high density. There is so much undeveloped land on Gretna Road and in other areas of Branson that will not affect the fabric of tight communities like our neighborhood. I ask you to please vote against this low-income unit development and to move it to an area that is better suited for the community and to protect the safety, peace, and value of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cassie Cunningham. I am a representative of an electric cooperative in the area here at 2449 East Highway 76. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with the commission this evening. The importance of this plan as it really aligns with the community's longstanding priorities. As a utility partner, not particularly for this project, but in the region, I've sat in many economic development meetings, chamber meetings, committee meetings, planning meetings, and all of those meetings have regularly hit priorities that include the housing initiatives, strengthening the 12-month economy, driving increased visitation, and supporting quality of place for residents to make sure that this is a place where we can live, work, and play. And many studies have shown that the quality of place supports stable population growth, attracts knowledgeable and educated workers, and lowers crime rates. For decades, we've reviewed these studies and debated strategies to accomplish these critical goals, but multi-hundred-million-dollar projects simply don't happen without public-private partnerships, substantial grants or bonding mechanisms, or incentive packages like the tax incremental financing. And what's presented tonight requires performance to progress. So we see that here. It mitigates risk and responsibility, distributes funds toward continued results, and this is what needs to be proposed to make projects like this happen to meet the goals that we're continually discussing in these meetings. It moves us toward that economy, and as a local provider, I understand the positive impacts that consistent and year-round economy can have on things like rates, demand of the system, and our community is prized for an initiative such as this. It leans into people who are already visiting. It builds on that strong base, and these folks can stay longer, they can come back for additional visits, it'll attract a new set of visitors, and now those visitors will be enjoying the sports facility. They're here with their kids, their parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and as we know, there's something for everyone in Branson, and they're gonna love it. There'll be the positive impact in and out of the district because it's for other hotels, they're eating at other restaurants, visiting parks, attending the shows, and this is what we need to drive the economy that we've been discussing. We finally have a tangible plan So the time to act is now. This is our chance to truly make a difference in the economic development projects that we've been talking to push our community forward. And instead of just talking about it, we can truly do something here with what's been proposed. And we want to let the world know that Branson is open for business and that we are excited for those visitors to come here and join us and love it just as much as we do. I appreciate your support and consideration as proposed tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adam Kowalik. I am with Holtz Builders and International Residence Hall. We are based out of the Wisconsin Dells. The Holtz companies have developed and currently operate several workforce housing projects in the area in partnership with larger employers. Holtz Companies has had great success and holds great appreciation for the community and has much interest in future projects. We are fortunate and grateful that our employer partners have provided private incentives to move the projects forward. Speaking as a developer, projects are harder to make work now than ever before. This is due to things like increased development, construction costs, higher related costs like insurance premiums, higher interest rates, and fewer available incentives. We believe that communities that are more competitive with things like TIFs have a significantly better chance of attracting development or redevelopment projects that can pencil out. Tax increment financing, or TIF, offers more benefits, including attracting private investment. Private investment can drive economic growth, job creation, infrastructure improvements, development, and redevelopment in blighted areas. In addition, a TIF can support an increase in affordable housing, increase tax base long-term, and reduce reliance on state or federal grants to spur development projects.
Good evening, Lori Hayes, Executive Director of the Branson Area Lodging Association. A lot of familiar faces up here. Thank you for spending your time this evening to consider all sides of this matter. I really hate to work from notes, but I will forget things if I don't. And I debated extensively on what to discuss with you the evening, and I will admit that I even made adjustments based on new information that was provided tonight to make sure that my statements were current. Since our association position letter came out last week, we have been called ignorant. We have been called naysayers. They have said we are anti-development. I would like to respectfully submit that we are none of those things. Our association has intelligent, mindful community members with successful businesses and a heart for Branson. The purpose of our position letter was to try and voice concerns and get responses to questions. Unfortunately, most of the community has only read the one-page flyer, and they have not read all of this. And fewer still have deep dived into the documents themselves. We want to see Branson flourish and would like to see tax incentives used for businesses such as the sports facility, the Bible attraction, things that will be drivers for visitation to Branson. We believe that the conversation needs to not focus on the project as a whole, but on good stewardship of taxes. The plan, we did get a response letter from the city to our position letter, and it did answer some questions, but we still have a few questions remaining. The plan indicates a $17 million contribution of taxpayer money for developer land acquisition. We're still not sure on the connection between Branson Meadows TIFCO LLC, which was presented as the applicant this evening, which according to the Secretary of State in Oklahoma was formed in May of this year, and to Branson Meadows DevCo LLC, which currently owns 82% of the proposed land. So we would like clarification there. On page 11 of the but-for determination, they discuss the $300 million in estimated costs. Those are the costs for the developer and third parties. The public incentive portion of the project would exceed $82 million. If you consider just the developer's interest, that is 66% of the developer's investment that we are covering. That means the taxpayer money would be used to provide developed pad sites for third-party investors who would actually bear the financial risk. Regarding the multifamily units, unless it is contained in the developer and city agreement, the but-for determination shows those would be $1,462 a month for rent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission, and thank you so much for your service and support for our community and your time. Really appreciate that. My name is Bay Maurer. I'm a long-term resident of the region. I've lived here over 15 years. I've been traveling to Branson for over 35 years. And in fact, just this last weekend, we brought 16 Maurers to the area to do everything from Sight and Sound Theater to Silver Dollar City to also, yes, a guided fishing tournament on Table Rock Lake. And my family enjoyed it. They were all from Oklahoma, Missouri, and even Texas. I'm here before you tonight to talk specifically about the sports facility for the city of Branson and the kind of direction it would drive to this community in combination with our private developers. As an individual in architecture as well as construction and design, I'm well aware of the importance and value of a public-private partnership. We have before us as a community a partner who's willing to partner with us. And I think we owe it to that partner who's willing to partner with us to be able to support that in our public partnership. What we're going to drive is economic development. We're also going to drive continued income, a tax base, and continued travel of what we have in our hospitality in our region from this. We've proved that already in the due diligence that we've done from the sports complex in and of itself. Now, our partner also has proved that from the private development. They are also going to drive additional revenue and income to our community. We're about to take a step forward in some phases that we haven't done in some time. As a member of the Chamber Board of Directors, I have seen the due diligence and when we've tried to build a sports complex in the past, and we've rehashed them, we've done it again and again and again, and it's time to act. It's time to act in our community, it's time to act for our people, and it's time for us to provide the residents of Branson what we are called to do in our community. Now is the time that we utilize the TIF funds and the CID funds to be able to support what we need to have from the sports complex as well as our partner here today. I can promise you in working around the region and in 44 different states in the United States, there are multiple sports facilities that continue to compete with our area, with our region. We're losing. Let that sink in. We're losing. And if we don't do something to support sports and tourism and a public-private partnership here, we will continue to fall behind what other cities like Gilbert, Arizona, or Colorado Springs, or even in Tennessee in Pigeon Forge. We need to get ahead of the game and be in touch with our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stan Field. I'm the Executive Director of the Branson Airport. We've heard and we're going to hear, I suspect, a lot of strong support for this in the community. And I'm certainly one that supports it for the greater good. But I'm here to give you a little slice of what goes on in my world, which is aviation and working with airlines to get them to come in and provide us quality air service for not only our residents for flying out, but bring tourists into our area. One of the key statistics that an airline uses to judge flying into a tourist area is number of hotel rooms that are under construction. So we've recently been able to tell all the airlines out there about the resort being built out of Silver Dollar City. That gets a lot of attention. It's very helpful. But beyond that resort, there's been very few hotel rooms built in Branson over the last 5+ years. You can go back as far as you want to. It is a tangible number to the airline that doesn't require interpretation. Every other piece of data that they get for the most part, requires them to make some relevancy into how it works. An airline hears that you're building hotel rooms. It tells them that people locally see the market as strong. It's growing. It's adding capacity. It's going to provide places for their passengers to spend the night when they fly them in here. So it's a very, very strong statistic. And this hotel construction project will be very strong. The other point that comes up, the question that's asked by every single airline I speak with, which is every airline in the U.S., is what can I do during your off-season? Do I have to shut down? Can I operate? And yes, we can get air service in here that operates for 9 to 10 months a year. It's easier to get air service in here that operates for 12 months a year. It's one less box that an airline has to go figure out how to fill in on where to move their aircraft and crew for the winter months. And so every barrier that we can take out of the way in front of the airlines is good for our community. So I'm going to ask you to support this and consider the effect on getting commercial air service into the Branson community. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Luke Johnson. I live in the Summerwood Estates housing development that is next to the Phase 2 150-unit housing complex that is looking to be built. Just a few thoughts to concur with other people that have already talked. I would beg to differ about the blight determination for that area. Since we are a growing subdivision, I would say that there's likely more houses that will continue to be built in that area, and so I think there's economic development that could continue to happen in that area. I would find that there are definitely, just pulling up Google Maps, there's other places right along the Gretna Road corridor that I think could be a great option for that specific unit of 150 dwellings. I counted up the number of houses in our neighborhood. There's about 45, at least from what I could tell in Google Maps. This would basically move us from 45 to 200, and that would definitely increase traffic, noise, just the amount of people living there. And I think from conversations we've had with other residents in our neighborhood, we didn't talk to one person that thought it was a good idea to put those units there. So I'd respectfully ask that you look at moving those to another area. I think that would definitely make all of us much more happy about that specific part of the development. And then I think it also could have a negative effect on the resale value of those homes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brent Murphy. I live in the Roark Hills subdivision, and a lot of it sounds like pretty good stuff, you know, honestly. But I will be looking at a condominium or, you know, apartments in my backyard because this one Phase 12, I believe, will be right in my backyard that I can see. So if that could be moved to a better location, I would ask that that could be done. Past that, I don't know, you know, if I have any other significant hesitations. I do think that there will be a significant amount of noise from traffic with all the development and congestion, but I understand that will come. And I don't know, I missed the very beginning of it, the significant risk from a financial aspect to the city, but if I do think that we are getting ready to experience a major shift in our economy in the next 3 to 5 years with artificial superintelligence. Conspiracy theory here, but we may have some different challenges in our economy in the next 5 to 10 years, and that's more for the development risk. But so anyway, just to concur that if Phase 12 or the building site for 12 could possibly be moved, I would appreciate that for noise and just visual aspect of my house. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Evening, everybody. Thank you all for taking the time to do this. You certainly have a large task ahead. And I forgot to introduce myself, sorry. My name is Derek Frederickson. I live here in Branson, work here in Branson. My family's here, moved here about 15 years ago to start life. And I think the one part, because I can't bring anything new from the amount of jobs, I think we all can agree that the growth and the housing and everything that we're talking about is a positive thing. But I think what you have before you tonight is the opportunity to set a precedent. And what that precedent is, hey, we can take a project, a development, right, that is worked on by a developer, the assistance of the Taney County Partnership, and can move that to the city and trust that the city's gonna put together a plan and there's gonna be collaboration. So I think it really sets a benchmark for collaboration for future projects, not just this one. And so I think we have a really unique opportunity, or you have a unique opportunity tonight to set that, and that's what's before you. So that's my perspective. I just wanted to share that. And to go off of what our developer said about not being a handout, right? It's certainly more like a handshake, and that's how I see it. It's like, hey, we're gonna work on this together, not only for this one, but future developers to come to town for anything from manufacturing to any other economic development, because like many of you here, I have children here and would love nothing more than to have them get education from here or surrounding and come back, right? And not have to chase them around the country, but have an economy that works for folks who are, folks who come back, you know, in the next 20 to 25 years. I would love that. So thank you for what you're doing. Humbly ask for you guys to support this, and yeah, appreciate it.
Hi, my name's Mitch Calvert. I'm a resident at 122 Whispering Oaks Lane in this subdivision that we're all talking about. And I think it sounds great. I mean, as far as everything except for that little area where our subdivision is. I mean, I like the idea that they're willing to partner with Branson, and that's going to bring in more jobs. Hopefully they'll partner with local businesses, and we can all make this work. But the only concern I have is that 150 low-income housing right there. I mean, there's one way into our subdivision. There's Google shows another road, Pinkley, that comes in there, and that's right where they would be building on that area up there. And if you've been up there, it's a terrible grade to build on. I'm sure there's better areas that would be wiser to spending tax dollars on a more suitable land mass to build that 150. That's where I'm at. Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Matt Atkins. I'm here representing the Taney County Partnership as their executive director. Our offices are found at 4100 Gretna Road, Branson. On behalf of the Taney County Partnership Board of Directors, we are writing to express our full support for the tax increment financing proposal for the Branson Meadows redevelopment project. This responsible and strategic investment stands to deliver lasting economic benefits to Taney County and aligns with our mission to promote sustainable growth and development throughout the region. The Branson Meadows redevelopment represents a unique opportunity to breathe new life into a key property by transforming underutilized space into a vibrant, revenue-generating destination. This project will bolster the economic health and competitiveness of our community. Importantly, this TIF proposal supports long-standing community priority, the development of a state-of-the-art indoor sports complex. This facility would be a cornerstone of our vision for a year-round economy, generating steady tourism, serving as a powerful economic driver, especially during the shoulder and winter seasons when visitation traditionally slows. Youth tournaments, training events, and recreational programming will bring new revenue streams to local businesses, enhance the vitality of our hospitality and entertainment sectors, and contribute to long-term workforce stability. Beyond the direct economic impact, the indoor sports complex will elevate the quality of life for residents, providing much-needed amenities that promote health, recreation, and community engagement. The Taney County Partnership Board of Directors believes this project is more than a redevelopment. It is a catalyst for regional progress. We respectfully urge your support for the Branson Meadows TIF, and thank you for your continued dedication to the future of our community. Signed, the Taney County Partnership Board of Directors, Dan Bullock, the Holtz Company and IRH, Randy Brashers, Higginbotham Insurance, Todd Chandler, Great Rivers Engineering, Taylor Clark, Bank of Missouri, Stephen Critchfield, Commercial One Brokers, Cassie Cunningham, White River Valley Electric, Alicia Deck, Mercy Hospital, Nancy Edson, Esterly Schneider, Brad Irwin, Paragon Architecture, Stan Field, Branson Airport, Derek Fredrickson, Hollis Acres and Arnie, William Mahoney, Cox Health Branson, Bay Maurer, Kinetic Design, John Parker, Chateau on the Lake, Jared Rasmussen, Olson, Ben Sapp, Sapp Design, Cam Evans of Navajos, Pam Yancey, Branson Chamber of Commerce, Jamie Reed, Capital Paving, Brad Albrighton, Taney County Rural Sewer District, Lamar Patton, City of Hollister, Dennis Winsenreed, City of Forsyth, Chris Lindweir, Emery Sapp and Sons, Joel Thomas, Buff Studio, Bill Jones, Branson Bank, and Casey Whitaker with Central Bank. Thank you.
Howdy. This is a little more drab than I thought it would be. I have some questions, but nobody's asking questions, so I'm trying to formulate my thoughts into questions.
State your name first.
Good idea. Brad Mancato. I live at 258 Pathway here in Branson, Missouri. Unfortunately, I don't think I know hardly any of you guys. I'm just curious of a couple things. How was the word sent out about this? I have 8 parcels of land that are in this area. I didn't hear anything about it until I was at a concert last Friday night. So I'm just really curious how any of the notifications were sent out about this. And how were the parcels determined to be eligible to be in the TIF? I mean, I just built a little development in the blighted area. My stomach's kind of sick right now because I just realized that I built in the middle of a blighted area. It's called Rocky Top Branson. It's right off of Cottonwood and Ivy. Go check it out. It's pretty cool. Go check out, drive through there tonight. And so I would like to plug in, if I can, to the TIF possibility. I'm a developer. I have been developing in this area already. I own several more parcels in this area. So I don't know how to do that, but I'd like to at least throw that out to you. I would have liked to know more about this before. I would like to know if this that was all presented is available for me to look at, since I have so much land in this area, so I can see what's going to happen around me. Because I know when I developed the land, one of the big things was stormwater drain off. I mean, I spent a year with engineers looking at where every inch of water would go off of my spots to the places around me. So I'm down water from some of these spots, so I'm not concerned. I just would like to talk more about it with some people if I can. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? All right, well, thank you to all who came out to speak, and if you didn't speak and you were here, you've been here this whole time, we appreciate you coming out. If there are no more public comments, I will declare the public comment portion of this hearing to be closed. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comments or wish to discuss any aspect of the proposed TIF plan with the applicant or the city staff and consultants?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to start with a question, and it can be either the city or the developer as appropriate, but most likely the city. Can you provide clarity as to the assurance that the community is going to have the sports complex? Because it's not something within the purview of the developer as we understand the plan is written.
Would you like?
So Commissioner, I wouldn't stand before you or anybody else and promise that we're going to 100% for sure be able to build something when our very first step hasn't yet been accomplished. And that's why this is of such magnitude tonight, is because it sets the wheels in motion. So we've been having conversations, well, actually for many years in the community about bringing a facility like this here. We've taken the study that the Taney County Partnership did with the SFC group, the Sports Facilities Companies group. We brought them under retainer to carry the baton forward. We've secured an option to purchase on the parcel to where this facility will be located. But we can't move any more forward without this very important first step happening. And then we can have earnest conversations with potential investors and partners, so that then once we start to build our capital stack, as they call it, right, where are you going to get all the money from to do this, I can speak in an educated and fully transparent way on what our deck is going to look like. We'll know how much the city has to finance, if any, how much other partners are willing to invest with us, et cetera. But I wouldn't stand before, I mean, I'm an optimist, right? So I feel like, I believe it, I can see it, it's going to happen. But I hope that the city judges this administration on the results we've delivered so far. We don't take on projects unless we can finish them on time, on budget. That's the charge that's been given to Alex and I when we came here to the city by our board and mayor, and we deliver. This is the farthest this community has ever come in progress of making an indoor sports facility a reality, and we ain't stopping now.
I appreciate that. Just as a point of clarification, Administrator Stepp, I definitely appreciate the hard work that goes into it, so it's not lost on me. It's more to the question of the community members that say this is a cornerstone that they would not argue against. I think there's not a single person that has spoken against the sports complex, but they'd like just clarity as to how that's going to come to be, and if there's not a secure capital stack going into it, what's a reasonable expectation for the community on the funding source, knowing that publicly these type of facilities usually go for bond, or that it's not off the table for an additional tax to fund this project?
Yeah, it's way too premature for me to comment on that at this point, and for all the reasons I've laid out, right? I'm asking you guys to give us the green light to proceed to the next chapter of this vision, to make it a reality. But before anybody of seriousness would want to sit down and talk to the city about, we want to be a partner with you in this facility, you got to have the land. You got to kind of understand what it is that's going to be included in it, like the vision that we can paint for them. And you've got to have a financing basis, right? I look at what you guys are doing tonight as tilling the soil. You're tilling the soil for seeds to be planted in, right? And those seeds are going to come from private investment, private developers, and then there's some watering that goes on, right, to help the seeds grow. And that might be, perhaps we have to take out some borrowing on behalf of the city in order to make this facility a reality. Maybe some of the other watering and fertilizing will come from separate investment partners. We're not under any illusions that $100 million is a small amount of money, but we're shooting big for this. We want this facility to be a game changer in the sports tourism conversations happening nationally. We are of the ideal location. We have the built-in surrounding, supporting recreational opportunities, our shows, our abundant natural resources that people will fall in love with here. But the first step is tonight in establishing the tilled soil.
And then I don't want to monopolize on the time, but one last question related to that topic. If in fact the development stands on its own viability, apart from the sports complex existing, whenever it's shared that without this TIF, a reasonable expectation from city staff that's been shared up to this point, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it would be very unlikely to expect that we will get a facility. And that's the only reason why it begs the question of the community, that if the pretext is without this TIF, that we're not going to get a sports facility, that's where the question comes from of the assurance to the community on that one idea that the city's best educated guess at this point in time is that it has to happen if we're going to reasonably expect it.
Well, frankly, I'd stand on where we are today. There's been people in this room and elsewhere that have been talking about bringing an indoor sports facility to this community for at least 15 years. It hasn't happened. And the only way it can happen is being a part of a bigger project that can help to absorb and support and be the wind under the wings of a successful endeavor. So I don't have to surmise if it would happen or not, were it not for a TIF. We can see the evidence today. We don't have it.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question for the developer or representatives of the developer. I thought Ms. Hayes from the Lodging Association asked some pretty pointed questions, and I saw you guys taking notes. I wondered if you would choose to address those.
Do you, and I, just because there was a number of things that were said, do you want to identify specific ones so I'm addressing the ones you have in mind?
I think the nature of the double names of the Development Corporation and then her suggestion that the TIF package amounts to a significant majority of the overall funds of the project.
So in that order, starting with land. So this is like virtually as somebody that gets to be in real estate, commercial real estate development, 7 days a week all over the region. It is almost ubiquitous that for any big project you have a land partnership, which is, where whoever owns the land at the beginning, and you have a development partnership, which in most cases is different. In this case, you have different partnerships, different people making up. You have some overlap, but you have different. And so that's the case here. I would then say in this specific case, because we anticipated this, because everything is above board, and we want to be clear, with the city very early on, we said we will go get an MIA, the top credential for appraisals to make sure that it is absolutely fair market value, that the land group is selling it to the development group. So there can be, funny business or any accusations there's anything going on that isn't for the, normal and for the benefit of the overall project. So that's how I'd address the first one. The second one, which I think was stated as the percentage of, this is the one you're thinking, a percentage of TIF that's going to the developer's core expenses. I think they said 60%, 66%.
Yes, that's what I'm remembering,
yeah. The way I'd respond to that, and I'm going to start in a short way, just because there's a robust study that backs up what I'm saying. Also, the city does a good job of making sure there can't be anything that's not proper, not reasonable, is probably the right way to say it in this regard, by doing a study that is completely by an independent third party, which is Baker Tilly, that literally studies that very question. And there's pages and pages that go over that. And I would, while I'm answering this question because you asked me and I'm comfortable doing it, Colby is the professional that has spent months looking at that very question. So that's what I revert you to answer that.
Appreciate that, Kurt. So if I understand the question as it was asked, is there are two numbers under consideration for the total project cost. There's the $300 million figure, and then the smaller subset of that figure that is directly related to the businesses that are kind of in the sphere of influence of the developer. For a project like this, when we look at that bigger picture, we are looking at the development as a whole. This applicant has come forward and proposed a development for developing this land and bringing in third-party partners. And we've seen this arrangement in both ways, where a land developer comes in, develops the land, states only the costs related to developing the land, and then there's a much higher percentage because that tends to be what costs are supported by the incentive. What this applicant has done is brought in a proposal for a number of parties to participate. So what those numbers speak to are the context for the development as a whole. It's for this type of project, it's to be expected in many cases that if a land development is happening and there's a TIF and a layer of incentives on top of it, that those third parties are considered part of the total development. So it's true that if you take only a portion of the costs that are directly tied immediately to the applicant, the incentives would be a higher percentage of those costs. And those incentives are going to be tied to those developments because that applicant is the person applying, that applicant is the person who is accountable for the development as a whole. And I've tried to provide some context. Is there any?
I would just add too, that the developer is primarily doing a lot of the site work. If no development comes from that parcel of land that has all of this infrastructure and sewers and water facilities, if there's no sales tax generated, that does not get reimbursed to the developer. So while yes, the site work costs are a significant portion of the costs, those don't get reimbursed unless something develops and actually comes up out of the ground.
That provides some clarity, thanks. Sorry, one more, maybe for the developer again. I don't want to monopolize the time. I wondered if there was a comment we heard repeatedly. It was just, is there any way that the workforce housing could not be in my backyard? I wonder if you can speak to why that was where it was chosen.
I'm glad you asked that question because that was the number one question I really wanted to address. There's a lot of land here, but there's also a lot of topography. And there was a lot of consideration as to where to site the two phases of workforce housing. The two things that came to mind when I heard that question, because it's a great question, it was raised by several people. Why here, and will this have an effect on my house where my family lives? First, I would say that multifamily housing, which is what this is, multifamily housing is sited every single day in the nicest cities like Branson, across the Midwest, in between commercial development, Branson Mill, Branson Meadows, and single family. Multifamily, respectfully done as it will be here, is by the book, in the, the planning book, the planning department, planning professionals, a transitional use to buffer single family from commercial. So in both of these cases, if we wanted to, we could look at this on the map. That's exactly what happens. But also, it's not the TIF commission or even the board after this that by themselves just says TIF and go ahead and get your hammer out and build. You have to go through, I know you know this, the zoning process, and you have to meet all the requirements in the zoning code. And so everything from buffering and transitioning and landscaping, all that has to happen through a whole separate process. But first and foremost, and again, it was a great question. I got out the map and stared at it again. This is truly how we do transition from commercial, which we have today, existing commercial, to single family. It just needs to be done right, and the zoning and plan approval process will make sure, I'm sure, the city level, it'll be done right.
Thanks.
Can I ask one more thing while we have your attention?
Sure.
So it was often referred to as low-income housing. You keep referring to it as workforce housing and affordable housing. Never once has it been presented as low income, two totally different subjects, correct?
I circled low income right here. Again, I'm glad you're asking this question. In America, in the Midwest, and I'll say in Branson, and you can decide if I'm right, I think it's true, we need quality housing at every price point. I know this to be true. This is in my realm, right, that daily seeing this at every price point. There are folks that, and I'm glad America's like this, and I mean that will say at certain price points, I don't want that price point near me. That could be anywhere on the price point realm. Tonight we heard at least one person say, I don't want, quote, low income near me. I'm not going to debate that with that person because they can say that and that can be their opinion. They can live there, they can live somewhere else, fine. But where I want to zoom in now is, I don't know of anybody, certainly any professionals that are around all the various types of housing all the time, that would call workforce housing low-income housing. Again, these labels kind of get abused and they're mushy. Nothing that we've talked about tonight in my professional spheres would we ever call low-income housing. That's not to get, I want to be clear, I'm not denigrating it. We need low-income housing. We need low-income housing tax credits from the federal government, which helps build nice housing. That's not what we have here. We have workforce housing for people that are firefighters and teachers, and those are the examples most used because they generally fall in that band of what workforce housing is. That's what we're talking about, not low income.
Thank you for clarification. Sure. I just know sometimes people confuse LIHTC and low-income properties with affordable housing.
That's exactly right.
I had a question, if you don't mind. Yeah. It's more aesthetics on the project. So when I looked at it, a couple of things. You know, you drive down past our convention center, you see the beautiful building. You drive by the Chamber of Commerce. You see the beautiful building. And maybe this is a city too, but the sports complex, it looks like you see a parking lot and you see the sports complex behind it. And one thing I notice when I'm at the Recplex and there's tournaments going on, there's a lot of families there, people in our community. They bring their kids there. They got to let out some steam. So they have lots of paths and stuff for them to go out and walk around through it. You know, it's a beautiful area. I just would like to see, you know, that incorporated into the final plan at some point in time. And the other is just from a traffic standpoint. You know, Sight and Sound, when they let out their shows, it gets backed up.
I've been there, yeah.
I think there was one roundabout in there. And personally, I like to sail down that Gretna Road area. I know that I'm going to have to slow down when this comes, but a roundabout or something in there, I don't know about a stoplight, but just some things to consider.
Duly noted. That'll all be in design, assuming this process is ultimately favorable.
Are there any other comments or questions from the commissioners?
I have not so much a question, but just some comments or information. You know, I was looking at some statistics at the convention center, and right now we're running about a 60% occupancy. And by industry standards, 65% is considered full occupancy, leaving time for maintenance and cleaning and turning from event to event. So there's no denying that events and activities want to come to Branson, just sheerly by the convention center numbers. And adding this sports facility will allow us to relieve compression at the convention center so we can bring in newer and bigger events, but also bring in a whole new level of sporting activities to the city, to the area that just can't come right now. I go to conferences and meetings all the time where people are saying, as soon as you build it, we will be there, because you have everything else that other cities want that's hard to get. So this is, in my opinion, the easy thing to do and the easy thing for us to get to continue to grow that year-round economy. So I appreciate everybody's hard work. I love the presentation, and I'm excited about the project.
As a follow-up to the document that was referenced as the visual aid to the plan, I know this has been shared with me, but it's fair since there's a larger group of people here. Can whoever's most comfortable explaining it on that visual aid reference the difference in cost between the city sports complex as advertised on that sheet to what it's shown in the amended plan as?
Are you referring to the one-pager that was distributed? Just as the city has been evaluating this project, the idea has grown larger and larger to support the full county, and that estimate was an early estimate, but we now have seen that we estimate it to be at about $100 million.
I appreciate that. And then also, is it fair too to say that this was not, the sports complex was not part of the original plan? It was added in somewhere along the timeline of the discussion starting?
The discussion takes a while to get a full project through, but this part of the city sports complex has been part of this project for quite a while.
Just to clarify, though, it's not been from the beginning. It was added after the start of the project.
I would say it was added at the beginning of the project. Okay.
Just for minute clarification here, so I'm not disagreeing with what Lindsay said. I mean, again, the Taney County Partnership had been already working on the feasibility study to bring this to our region. And so internally, our team had been talking before we were talking to the developer, you know, about, while we were talking to the developer about the initial TIF, right, without this facility located in there. And the reason why these things take so long to come to you is because we've had 9 months of back and forth negotiations and adding things, changing things, taking things out. You know, I mean, there's just been a lot of back and forth with a willing partner that wants to invest here. But we really, in earnest, started talking about the sports facility, maybe I would say 2-3 months in after we first started talking about the original TIF. So it's almost from the birth, But it's now, then when we brought this into the conversation, we started talking about the need to have, we were pushing, right? And they were willing, again, it's not like we had to push hard, but to bring more housing units into town. That's always been our focus, is what are the most urgent needs that this community needs, not just to sustain a high standard of living or a decent standard of living for our residents, but how do we bring more people here, which brings more revenue here, which helps us to improve on the amenities that we can offer to our residents. And obviously the sports facility is 2 shots of adrenaline.
I appreciate that. Again, it goes back to everybody knows the city's been involved and spent a lot of time and investment. The developers taking, not to villainize anybody, there's a genuine interest there, credibility, a reputation. It's just questions that I think are fair, that are asked by the public that don't always make it into social circles. And I do know that these points have been, these shouldn't be new to anybody that's hearing me speak right now that's in the room. Just all along the way, we're not really in a position to answer that question. So I'm trying to quantify that. Is that a reasonable expectation of those who don't agree with this plan as written? Or is it unfair to keep asking the question?
I'm not sure I follow. Was there a
On the
question?
assurance, the timeline of this facility, the fact that it won't come without the TIF, that it wasn't part of the original plan, and then the exigency of throwing it in, and then is this time sensitive as well as finance sensitive, or is there time for additional conversations, or is this, as it's been referenced to, this is how this is written, and is it an all or nothing, or is there a spirit of collaboration that will carry past the commission into the Board of Aldermen's purview?
Oh, well, I'll start with the last comment first, which is, of course, there's going to be a lot of public discourse through the Board of Aldermen process. I mean, you'll have meetings where the public can come and comment on the agenda items. We're going to be, and have been, by the way, as transparent, I would say fully transparent with where we've been going with this all along, at least in the business community and the different meetings that I attend. I've been more than willing to share with members in attendance. But you don't want to overstate something. I never wanted to oversell something to members of our community. So you got to be kind of a little bit cautious, right? Because I don't want to oversell something. So and I don't want to give the appearance that this was thrown in, okay? Because I think that was the term you used, and I don't want to give that kind of an aura to it, because again, this is something that's been at the forefront of people's minds for a long time. We had already started having a conversation with these developers about their idea of this project, and we went, hey, here's a door opening where we could see not just more enthusiasm generated to generate more interest into the development for their purposes, the developers, right, from the business side, but also bringing that sports facility here generates such excitement that it may even pay off sooner, because we'll get more investment faster, versus if you didn't have a sports facility, it would progress along usual and customary timelines that projects like this do. So I don't want there to be an appearance or a thought that I'm not being fully transparent about when we started having conversations about this. We're in it today, and so I'm just very hopeful that you guys see fit to support the efforts that we've taken, whether it's been the full 9 months talking about the sports facility in it, or it's been 6 of the 9 months talking about the sports facility in it. We're talking about it tonight, and we're hoping you approve it tonight.
And then the last thing, I'll just, on this topic, because I feel like I don't want to beat a dead horse. The idea or the position of the municipality would be to provide information and not advocate, right? Is it purely informational, or is there an advocacy component?
I'm advocating.
No,
I'm pretty
I
sure
appreciate
I've been
that.
obvious about that
yeah,
one.
just to the folks that
Yeah.
have a concern on the role of the purview of this commission and what we're supposed to actually look at, and what the city's role would look like in that process as well. And if you're comfortable in saying that that's not out of line, it's not a question. It's a question that's asked when somebody's representing a larger group, and it's either a fair observation and a question, or it's not a fair question. And so, based on conversations I've had, it was a question worth just asking in this forum so that we can know without a shadow of a doubt that that's a fair question, that the role of this whole process, the advocacy piece, positionally, and then this commission, we've seen a lot of things. You've listed the 6 items we're allowed to actually comment on. that's the thing I'll end with is.
Okay.
You would say that there's nothing that would say that there's been undue lien from the city involved in the process at all?
No, sir. We educated, well, so I want to make sure I'm understanding your question because there's a lot in there. So our role is to make sure that our TIF commissioners are fully educated to the best of our ability, and that's why we offered briefings before this meeting tonight, because there's this much information, right, in very small font. So our goal is to make sure that everyone's educated, that they feel confident about being able to come. You guys don't do this for a living, right? You're hotel operators and county board members and engineers and all different reporters, all different kinds of talents. And bringing your perspective here is very important to represent the community at large. But we also want you to understand what we're talking about today, and it's very complex, and when you've never been in it before, it's very intimidating. We wanted to create an environment of smaller groups so that people didn't feel intimidated to ask questions. And in front of the public, when it's streamed, and there's a lot of pressure here, I didn't want people to be shy. So I'm so thankful that all of you who attended those briefings felt comfortable enough to ask questions, to come back in if you had more questions so we could answer things you were hearing in the community, so we could help you spread the truth and the facts and the data that's before you all tonight to decide upon. That was not advocacy, that was informational. Tonight, I'm advocating.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I would also just state, too, that the TIF Commission is a recommending body. The TIF Commission, you're all here as representatives of your taxing jurisdictions. So in order to understand your taxing jurisdiction's position, you would talk with them and understand what their position is. The Board of Aldermen represents the city as a whole, the business community, the resident community, the tourist community. The TIF Commission represents the city, the school district, the county, and the other taxing jurisdictions as representatives of those taxing jurisdictions.
I appreciate the clarification. The question being the tax jurisdiction within the city of Branson being those businesses that contribute to the tax base that aren't overly supportive as the plan is written. So that would be the spirit of where those comments come from within the purview of here as a recommendation to the actual authority, which would be the Board of Aldermen. So I appreciate that clarification, but that's where the spirit of those comments of Branson businesses within the city of Branson as part of the Branson tax jurisdiction is a question, right? That's where it's coming from.
Well, I understand that, but the city as a taxing jurisdiction and the city as people who have jobs and businesses and homes here, those are two separate sorts of ideas. Does that make sense? The city is its own taxing jurisdiction, just like the school district is its own taxing jurisdiction. The Board of Aldermen represents the people of the city.
No, completely understand, but we also know that the taxes are generated by those very same individuals. The existence of their businesses is what is remitting those funds to the city officials to then decide what they're going to do with those taxing funds. So I appreciate the clarification, and that's where the question's coming from. I appreciate your time.
I'm a little confused. I forgot. Oh, okay, yeah, that's got it. I would hope that the city would advocate for this in view of the time and effort that has been spent on it. The developer, if you're not going to advocate for this, what would you advocate for? And I personally appreciate the time that has been spent trying to explain it to me. I particularly appreciate the excellent presentations that have been given tonight. I mean, I'd have to be brain dead not to understand it. Now, I cannot respond to things that people out in the public might be saying that they didn't come here tonight and say on the record. I can only go by what I've got. But thank you very much. I really appreciate your presentations tonight and look forward to this project.
Dare I ask? Any other comments or questions from the commission? Anything else that city staff, applicants, consultants want to make sure is addressed that was maybe mentioned tonight by the public comment?
I don't believe so. Nope.
Ms. Colas, do you have any exhibits you would like to enter into the record for this matter?
I do, and I have a lot to read from this paper, so I apologize. But exhibit number 1 is the mailed notices to the taxing jurisdictions and property owners for the July 15th, 2025 public hearing, as well as the supporting documentation. Exhibit 2 are the published notices for the July 15th, 2025 public hearing, as well as supporting documentation. Exhibit 3 is the affidavit of publications for the request for proposals that was published in the Branson Tri-Lakes News on June 18th, 2025. 4 is notice of the TIF Commission public hearing that was posted pursuant to section 67.2725 RSMO. 5 is the notice and tentative agenda for the TIF Commission public hearing that was posted pursuant to chapter 610 RSMO, the Sunshine Law. Exhibit 6 is the amended Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan, which was submitted on July 3rd, 2025. Exhibit 7 is city staff and consultants report to the TIF Commission. 8 is the Branson Community Plan 2030, the city's comprehensive plan. 9 is the PowerPoint presentation that was made by the applicant tonight. 10 is the but-for determination report that was prepared by Baker Tilly. 11 was the PowerPoint presentation that was presented by Baker Tilly tonight. 12 is the PowerPoint presentation that was presented by Lauber Municipal Law tonight. And 13 are the letters received from the community that were received in the last couple of weeks before this hearing.
Mr. Chairman, we have the list of exhibits here. I'll submit those to the city clerk on the commission's behalf with your permission.
Yes. All right, well, if there's no further discussion, I declare the public hearing for the proposed Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan closed. You guys thought that part was fun. Wait for this one. Our next item of business is to consider a resolution that states our recommendations to the Board of Aldermen regarding the proposed TIF plan. You each have a copy of the proposed resolution, and I will summarize it. Resolution
Mr.
number...
Chairman, if we could just read the title very quickly, as quick as possible.
That's long. All right, resolution number 2025-01, a resolution of the City of Branson Tax Increment Financing Commission recommending approval of the amended Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive Tax Increment Financing Plan, recommending designation of a redevelopment area, recommending designation of blight within the redevelopment area, recommending designation of the redevelopment project areas and approval of the redevelopment projects within the redevelopment area, and recommending approval of developers to the Board of Aldermen of the City of Branson, Missouri.
Thank you.
So this resolution is a resolution recommending that the Board of Aldermen make the 6 statutory findings required by the TIF Act related to the amended Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan. Additionally, by this resolution, the TIF Commission makes recommendations to the Branson Board of Aldermen that the board should, 1, adopt an ordinance to make the statutory findings required by the TIF Act related to the amended Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan. 2, approve the amended Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan. 3, designate the redevelopment area of the amended Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan as a redevelopment area as required by the TIF Act. 4, designate the redevelopment project areas and approve them as described in the TIF plan. 5, declare Branson Meadows TIF Co. LLC as the developer for the developer redevelopment projects. Declare the city or the city's designee as the developer for the city redevelopment project. 7, negotiate and enter into a contract with the developer for implementation of the TIF plan. And 8, adopt an ordinance at the appropriate time to initiate tax increment financing for the redevelopment project areas within the redevelopment area. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I heard a couple options there. Hillary, you got what you need? And for the vote, when we get to that part, just make sure you turn on your mic and speak into it so we can get that recorded. Is there any discussion on the motion now that we have a motion and a second? Hearing no further discussion, I will call for a vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Michael Pinkley,
Yes.
James Dewsbury,
Yes.
Angie Teal,
Yes.
Greg Baker,
Yes.
Gary Groman,
Yes.
Alex Williams,
No.
Cody Fenton,
Yes.
Nick Plummer,
Yes.
Rob Griffith,
Yes.
Dustin Price,
No.
Sonia Meyer.
No.
The result of the vote is 8 yeses and 3 nos. The motion carries.
Thank you all. That concludes our business tonight on the amended Gretna Road and Town and Country Drive TIF plan. If there is no other business to come before the commission, do I have a motion to adjourn? Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.